What if the perfume sitting in your bathroom right now, the one you paid $22 for and half apologize about when someone asks what you're wearing, smells nearly identical to a bottle that cost $350? Not close, not a distant cousin. Nearly identical, molecule for molecule, in the parts of the scent that actually reach other people's noses from across a room. 10 perfumes in this video sell for under $60, several for under $30, and at least one has caused a trained fragrance buyer to stop mid-sentence and ask where you found the Maison Margiela. The gap between a $20 bottle and a $400 one is real, but it is not always where people think it is, and tonight I am going to show you exactly where to look. Here's the honest truth that most people never hear. The perfume industry spends more money on the bottle, the box, and the celebrity licensing contract than it spends on the juice inside. A fragrance house like Chanel or Tom Ford often fills their bottles with a formula that costs $3 to $8 to manufacture at scale. The markup funds advertising, retail floor space, and the weight of the glass. None of that changes how it smells on your skin. I have been buying, testing, and comparing fragrances for over a decade, and the single most consistent thing I can tell you is that price and smell quality are far less connected than the industry would like you to believe. Now, as someone who has spent years in this industry, I want to share what I have actually witnessed. People spending $200 on a designer name and smelling indistinguishable from someone who spent $19. That is not always an accident. Some affordable houses deliberately target the same ingredient profiles as the luxury market, using the same synthetic musks, the same ambroxan bases, the same ISO E-Super that fills bottles at 10 times the price. The loss I see most often is not someone buying cheap. It is someone buying expensive out of embarrassment, because nobody ever told them that the $30 bottle at their local drugstore was hitting the same olfactory notes as the one locked behind the glass counter. Number 10. Zara Red Temptation. If you have walked past this one on the shelf and dismissed it because it sits next to fast fashion earrings and impulse scarves, that instinct makes complete sense. But here's what the packaging is hiding. Red Temptation opens on bergamot and vanilla, moves into a warm amber and benzoin heart, and dries down to a skin-close musk that most people have only encountered on bottles priced 3 times higher. The direct comparison most fragrance buyers reach for is Lancôme La Vie Est Belle, which retails for $90 to $110. Red Temptation sells for roughly $20 to $25. Your test tonight: spray both on paper strips side by side if you can access a department store tester. The dry down, after 30 minutes, not the opening, is where you make your judgment. Red Temptation projects for 4 to 6 hours on most skin types, which is competitive with bottles at 5 times the cost. The loss here is straightforward. Someone picks it up, sprays it into the air above the bottle, decides it smells too sweet, and puts it back down. Top notes are the opening act. They burn off in the first 15 minutes. The perfume underneath that initial sugar burst is the real product. And on Red Temptation, the real product smells like a deliberate $100 decision dressed in a $20 bottle. Number 9. Ariana Grande Cloud. Go ahead and say it. You have already thought it. This is a celebrity fragrance, and celebrity fragrances are cheap marketing products that smell like gift shop candles. I have heard that argument 100 times, and I held it myself until I read the formula credits. Cloud was developed by Firmenich, one of the top 5 fragrance houses in the world. The same Firmenich that formulates for Dior and Yves Saint Laurent. Their brief was to build a cozy, slightly gourmand scent anchored in lavender, coconut, and vanilla that could compete at a sensory level with Mugler Alien and Victor and Rolf Flowerbomb. Cloud retails for $30 to $40. Flowerbomb retails for over $120. Cloud carries a lavender and praline opening that reads immediately as high-end gourmand, the kind of scent architecture that costs real money to build when a luxury house does it. Spray it at 9 in the morning and smell your wrist at 2 in the afternoon. Most people find it still clearly present at the 6-hour mark. Your test: apply it to the inside of your elbow rather than your wrist, where pulse points are stronger and body heat amplifies the dry down. What you will notice is that the vanilla base reads warm rather than synthetic, which is exactly the line most budget fragrances fail to cross. Cloud crosses it reliably. Number 8. Bath & Body Works, Into the Night. This one is almost criminally underestimated in serious fragrance conversations. It sells for $16, often disappears during their buy 3 get 3 sales, and consistently gets compared to Tom Ford Black Orchid, which retails between $150 and $200. Into the Night opens on Black Cherry and Jasmine, which sounds like a middle school body mist, until the base arrives. The base is where this fragrance earns every claim made about it: dark amber, sandalwood, and a musky vanilla that anchors the whole composition into something genuinely wearable after dark. The mistake most people make with Bath & Body Works is assuming the retail environment communicates something about product quality. It does not. Into the Night specifically was developed for a customer who wanted evening sophistication without an evening price, and the brief was executed seriously. Your test: wear it to an actual evening event, not a grocery run, not an afternoon errand. An event where you care about how you present. The reactions you get will recalibrate what you thought a $16 bottle was capable of producing. Into the Night was not built for Tuesday mornings. Context matters almost as much as chemistry. Number 7. Sol de Janeiro Cheirosa 62. This one began as a body lotion and a body splash before the brand released a proper eau de parfum, but every format of this fragrance earns its place in this conversation. The scent profile is pistachio, salted caramel, and jasmine over a warm sandalwood base, and the targets it is chasing are obvious to anyone who has smelled Maison Francis Kurkdjian Baccarat Rouge 540, which runs $325 for 90 milliliters. The Cheirosa 62 body splash costs $22. The reason this belongs on the list is that the gourmand balance is genuinely sophisticated, sweet without being cloying, warm without being heavy, which is a significantly harder technical problem than it sounds. Your test with Cheirosa 62 is a simple one. Apply it right after a shower on slightly damp skin, because gourmand fragrances project dramatically better when the skin still holds warmth and moisture. Then wait 45 minutes and ask someone nearby, someone who did not watch you apply it, what they smell. The note most people identify is not pistachio or caramel. It is something warm and expensive and vaguely unfamiliar, which is exactly the reaction you are chasing when you pay $300 for a bottle. Number 6. Dossier Ambery Saffron. Dossier is a direct dupe house. They openly name the fragrance they are referencing and sell their interpretation for $29 to $49. Ambery Saffron targets Yves Saint Laurent Libre, which retails for $90 to $130. Here is the honest answer, having tested both side by side more than once. The opening 15 minutes favor the original. YSL Libre has a slightly crisper, more expansive lavender and mandarin opening that reads as more polished. That gap is real. After 30 minutes, it narrows significantly. After an hour, the argument becomes genuinely difficult. The dry down on Dossier's version is where the value equation becomes hard to dismiss. The amber and musk base that both fragrances share smells nearly identical on skin past the 1 hour mark. And at that point, the question is whether you are weighing $49 against $120, or whether you are weighing something else entirely. Your test: wear Ambery Saffron for a full workday and track how you feel about it on its own terms, not against the original. The self-consciousness people carry when they know they are wearing a dupe often colors how they experience the fragrance. Wearing it without apology changes the read entirely. I've watched people receive compliments on Ambery Saffron from people who own the YSL version. But before we get to the top 4, there's something worth pausing on, because it runs underneath every entry on this list. The perfume industry has spent decades teaching you that price signals quality, that a beautiful bottle on a lit glass shelf means a beautiful smell inside it, that the correct amount to spend on a signature scent is somewhere north of $100. None of that is grounded in the chemistry of what you actually smell. I put together a reference guide called the Fragrance Finder that walks through the exact notes, the longevity benchmarks, and the ingredient markers that separate a $30 bottle that genuinely performs from one that fades in 40 minutes on skin, so you can make that call before someone at the department store counter makes it for you. It is linked below. Now let us finish the list. Number 5. Paco Rabanne Olympia. This one sits slightly higher than most others on this list, typically $50 to $70 during retail sales, but it earns its place because the fragrance it is most often compared to. Thierry Mugler Alien regularly sells for over $110. Olympia opens on a clean aquatic accord, layered with amber, moves through jasmine and ginger, and lands on a warm vanilla and cashmeran base that most people find immediately appealing in a way they cannot quite name. The specific thing separating Olympia from cheaper aquatic fragrances is cashmeran, a synthetic ingredient with a warm, slightly woody, slightly musky character that gives a perfume what buyers in the trade call weight. Your test tonight is a projection test. Spray Olympia on your wrist at the start of a social gathering and count how many people mention a pleasant smell before you mention the fragrance. Fragrances that project confidently in close social settings without becoming aggressive or loud are worth their price at any price point, and Olympia does exactly that. The cashmere base gives it a distinctive character that most mainstream releases never develop. The mistake is writing it off as a department store option and assuming department store means generic. Those are two separate things. Olympia's formula was taken seriously. The scent, on the right skin, is more memorable than the bottle. Number 4. Glossier You. This is the one that consistently surprises people who have spent serious money on niche perfumery. Glossier You retails for $72, which puts it above the true budget tier. But what it accomplishes with $72 is worth understanding in detail. It was built specifically to smell like your skin, amplified. The formula centers on ambret, a musk derived from musk mallow seeds that reads as warm, slightly powdery, and distinctly personal rather than perfumed. Iris, pink pepper, ambrox, and woody musks round out a composition designed to smell different on every person who wears it. Niche houses charge $250 for this exact concept. Glossier built it into a $72 bottle and sold it at Sephora. The reason Glossier You belongs in this conversation is not projection. It is the reaction it produces when someone is physically close to you. Skin scent fragrances do not announce themselves from across the room. What they do is make you smell disconcertingly good at close range, which is a different kind of power, and one that many $300 bottles cannot replicate. Your test. Apply one spray to the inside of your wrist at night and smell it again the following morning. The longevity is quietly exceptional. Waking up still wearing it is a fast way to recalibrate what $72 can do. Number 3. Revlon Charlie Red. This is the one that sounds like a joke until you look at the comparisons people are drawing. Charlie Red has been in production since 1995. It sells for $12 to $15. It is at Walmart and CVS and every mid-tier drugstore across North America. And fragrance community blind tests have repeatedly placed it in the same conversation as Chanel Coco Mademoiselle, which retails between $120 and $180 depending on concentration. The comparison is not perfect, but the aldehyde-touched floral and patchouli dry-down that the two fragrances share is close enough that blind panel results have produced genuine confusion more than once. Less than a restaurant lunch, and it has outlasted most of the bottles that launched the same year at 10 times the price. Your test with Charlie Red is the dry down, because the opening is where the price gap is most visible. The first 5 minutes read as distinctly vintage drugstore. But spray it on the back of your hand and walk away for 20 minutes. Come back and smell what remains. The dry down is where Revlon directed their development resources, and it shows clearly. The patchouli and warm musk base that lingers past the opening is polished in a way that $12 absolutely does not prepare you to encounter. Number 2. Kayali Vanilla 28. This one sits at $88 for 50 milliliters, which is a real number for a real budget. But here is why it belongs on a list about value. The fragrances it performs at or above the level of routinely sell for $250 to $350. Kayali Vanilla 28 was built by Mona Kattan in collaboration with Givaudan, another top 5 fragrance house, using a layering philosophy drawn directly from Middle Eastern attar traditions, where individual elements stack on skin over time rather than presenting as a single finished accord. The formula builds Madagascar vanilla, musk, and sandalwood in a way that reads as genuinely luxurious, not sweet shop vanilla, not gift wrap vanilla, but warm, skin-close, lived-in vanilla. $88. It is the most expensive item on this list. It is also the clearest case of performance exceeding price on this list. Your test with Kayali Vanilla 28 is a layering test. Apply it over a fragrance-free lotion on warm, slightly damp skin, then apply a second very light spray over your clothing. Kayali was designed around layering, and it responds to the technique dramatically. The depth and projection you get from a layered application is something most standalone fragrances at 3 times the price struggle to match. The specific detail most people never discover is that Vanilla 28 reads almost entirely differently in cold weather versus warm. In winter, it goes richer and closer to the skin. In summer heat, it projects outward and reads warmer and more golden. Number 1. And this is almost certainly a fragrance you have already encountered on someone else, probably in a situation where you leaned slightly toward them without fully realizing you were doing it. Maison Margiela Replica, Beach Walk. It is not cheap in the way that some others on this list are cheap. It runs between $120 and $140 for a 100 milliliter bottle, but it is the most important entry here because of what it proves. Beach Walk was created by Marie Salamang at International Flavors and Fragrances using a formula built around bergamot, coconut milk, and heliotrope. When it launched, it was reviewed alongside fragrances costing $500 and above, placed in their company, and held its position there. It belongs in the tea conversation. It consistently wins it, and it is sold at every Nordstrom in the country. The reason Beach Walk sits at number 1 is not that it is the cheapest option. It is not. It is that it dismantles the logic connecting price to legitimacy more cleanly than anything else I can point you toward. A fashion house known for deconstructed tailoring. A department store price point. A formula by one of the finest noses working in the industry. Performance that $500 bottles do not reliably reach. Your test is the simplest one on this entire list. Wear it once somewhere you actually care about the impression you make. Notice how you carry yourself. Notice what the people near you do when you move past them. Then look at what the bottle cost. That distance, between what it produces and what it costs, is the whole argument. That is what this list has been about, Frit. The first sentence.